hello and welcome to this episode of the Private Aviation Insider's Guide. Boy, do I have a treat for you today because I have a naval aviator, Brown Word, who retired from the Navy as a captain or a bird colonel in the other branches of the military, as he was explaining to me. And he currently flies a King Air B200. So not only are we getting today the ins and outs of flying the King Air B200, but we're going to get a little bit of the perspective of flying an aircraft like that after experience for years flying the P-3 Orion. Brown, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for this podcast today. Thanks for displaying all of your ranks and honors behind you during this podcast. I love seeing all of that and appreciate your service. How are you today?
Renee, it's nice to meet you. Good morning, and I'm doing just fine. At age 70, any day you wake up on top of the sod, that's a pretty good day. So,
well, and you're still flying.
Yes, I still fly. In fact, we'll fly down to Houston on tomorrow, pick up some family members and be the guest at one of our grandchildren's grandparents today. So, no, I'm sitting here surrounded by all my I Love Me stuff that I've got on the wall, and so I'm reasonably comfortable.
Well, for those who are listening to this by audio and not by video, it looks an awful lot like your I Love Aviation stuff. Also, let's talk about the King Air B200. You flew a couple of other civilian airplanes before this one, but what made you pick the King Air B200 to fly?
That's a good question. I had gradually increased after I got out of the Navy, planes that I was flying. I started out in a small Piper Twin Comanche, just a terrific little airplane, but it's 4 seats, had twin engines on it, kind of bulletproof IO-320s. Then moved to the Mooney, single engine. My wife did not like sitting in the Mooney. Then we moved into a Cessna 310. It was an older airplane, but it had nice flying characteristics. I love being in multi-engine again because I've flown P-3 in the Navy, which was 4-engine turboprop. I trust turbine engines, so given the fact that the power to weight ratio of the B200 King Air is almost identical to the power weight ratio that in my first P3 Alphas, I'm very comfortable with the flight characteristics. I love the fact that it could carry up to 10 people at one time, but that we also do most of our flying point to point. So I pretty much had to give up sightseeing because it is not a good sightseeing plane. But it's a great plane to take you up to altitude and take you a long way. And if you're a retired bum like I am, you're not in a hurry, then you can really eat some range out of it.
Well, that's great. Talking about that, what is the range of the B200? What do you typically get out of it when you're flying?
Well, I can get more because by slowing down, I can get closer to maximum specific range, max miles per gallon. I'll be a little bit above that. But I have taken this plane nonstop as far, of course we have good tailwind, but I took off from Scottsdale, Arizona to give you an idea, and landed in Ogdensburg, New York, which was almost exactly 1,800 nautical miles. Now we had a terrific tailwind, but typically I can plan on a max if I can top the tank cell 544 gallons of kerosene, I can plan on going easily 1,500 nautical miles, and that's not too shabby.
And what's your fuel burn on that, Brown?
To get to altitude, Renee, I will trim back to about 64, 65 gallons an hour. But if you take into account the increased burn rate at takeoff and climb, and then after you descend, you've got maneuvering at lower altitude, I count on about 73 gallons per hour.
Well, that's a nice round number. I like it. You're an exact pilot. I love that. Brown, what do you feel like is the sweet spot in range in the aircraft that you would recommend people who are considering the aircraft would buy the aircraft to fly, taking into account passenger and crew comfort, as well as the true range of the aircraft?
There are several factors, Renee, that would go into that. Number one, the plane flies very nice at 27 to 28,000, and I do not have RVSM mod. I'm working on it, but the reduced vertical separation minimum does not allow me to go over 28,000 with the avionics package I have. But one of the advantages of 27, 28 is you're really above most of the weather, and you are at an altitude where few other people will fly because your King Air, the 90 series King Airs are much happier down around 21, 22, 23, something like that. And the commercial airliners don't like coming below 30. So you kind of have it that way. I will, once a year, we go up to Maine for 5 weeks. So we'll take off from from Georgetown, here just north of Austin, and fly to Wiscasset, Maine, which is a little over 1,500 nautical miles. And if I've got a full load of gas on there, I can take off from here, be in Maine in about 6 hours at 28,000 feet, 27,000 going east. And the passengers seem to be happy. The pressurization in the cabin will be just over 7,000 feet. I can control the descent rate in it. And, so far, nobody started complaining and throwing pillows at me for doing it wrong.
Fantastic. Well, tell me a little bit about your pilot workload in the cabin, because I'm assuming you're flying single pilot. What's that like for you?
I fly single pilot, and thanks to a lot of experience, I'm reasonably comfortable up there, knowing that I don't have to get in a rush. The biggest workload issue is in the takeoff, flying a standard instrument departure. If I have one, having departure come up and say, I need you to turn this way, head this way. And it's knobology. It's not the flying of the airplane. We do have a nice autopilot that allows me to turn it over to that so I can do these things. And if before I put the fire to the coals and take off, if I have done a good job of reviewing the procedures and I've set up all of my Garmin gear, which I have, it's actually not too bad. There are times that it does get busy when I get thrown a curve, and it would be nice to have a pilot. And then when I get to destination, since I get to pick the fields I go to, it's as long as things stay predictable, the workload is not too bad. One thing that does help is when I don't have somebody sitting in the right seat, which on occasion, not everybody wants to sit up in the cockpit, and it gives me a workbench so I can put the charts in the computer and the stuff I have there. So, but I will also tell you that as I'm getting older, my flying skills, my stick and rudder skills don't seem to be a problem. But keeping up with the technology is a problem. So, my days are numbered, and that happens.
Brown, tell me a little bit about what your passengers feel about the seats and the accommodations in the back of the aircraft, besides the convenience.
A majority of them are in pretty good shape. Some people don't like sitting backwards. One part of the plane has club seating where you've got seats that face each other, front and back. The ones who are sitting back, and I've had this problem too if I were back there, probably if you're prone to motion sickness, sitting backwards is really drive it quicker. But there's reasonable leg room. We've got work tables you can pull out, and those seats were actually built for comfort, and they're actually pretty good, especially in light of the fact that you can pull up on one of the relief latches, and the seat will actually move toward the center, giving you more elbow room. And anybody sitting up front, those upper seats up front. But 3 of the seats, you need to put people there that are small, or maybe somebody you don't like, I suppose. There's a couch in there that sits sideways, and it's pretty straight. There's no reclining in that. Those 2 people have that. One of the comfortable seats, and it is a legitimate ditching station, as we call it in the Navy, does have the seat belt, the lap belt, is on top of the flush toilet. But it's a comfortable cushion, but I'm not sure anybody has ever told Nancy, please let me sit on top of the toilet. But it's back there.
Hey, when somebody's getting a free ride, they don't complain about sitting there if that's their only choice.
And we can do a pretty good job of controlling the temperature back there. That's we've got the controls in the front, so all I have to have is someone tell me a little hot, a little cold. Each seat has its own Jasper, your eyebrow, your eye vent where you can put that air on you, and it's got good lighting in the back. So I don't normally get a lot of complaints about there. People on our longer flights where people like to be able to stand up. You can't completely stand up unless you're pretty small. You have to bend over to stretch out. Eli's dad on the faculty at Ohio University has difficulty sitting for a long time because of his back, so he'll lie on the floor. Well, I used to do that in the P3. I slept on bubble wrap, so I can do that. It's not the worst thing that ever happened.
That's funny. I have not heard that yet in doing all of these podcast interviews. I'm glad you shared that. Bubble wrap makes a great lightweight bed in the back of an airplane.
And of course, Navy pilots live to pop bubble wrap. So once you wake up, you can go ahead and sit there and pop bubble wrap if that's what makes you happy.
You've had some boring hours in the air, I'm sure, flying surveillance. What about the luggage capacity in the King Air B200? It's known pretty well for that.
In my version, which is one of the original B200s, the max weight in the back is 410 pounds. Typically, we will max out in volume before we do it in weight. So I can get that back there. It doesn't really affect the flight controls by putting the center of gravity farther out. It works all right. It is a bit of nuisance getting things loaded, and somebody's got to be up there to take the bags and put them in. It's like, I guess, sorting a Rubik's Cube by making sure that everything is in there the way it should go. There is an STC modification where you've got lockers out on the engine nacelle. It's after the engines, and you pop that up, and you can put a lot of stuff out there, but that's $55,000 worth of storage space that I'm not interested in putting in there. I'm a Part 91 operator, so I'd have to just eat that cost of it.
Does that modification affect the amount of fuel that you can put on the airplane?
Not at all. It doesn't change anything except where you put some of the luggage. So you could put golf clubs out there, skis. It's pretty roomy, but it doesn't affect anything as far as the flying of the airplane or the loading of the airplane with fuel or fuel consumption. It just puts it out there.
Now, tell me about the maintenance for the B200. Do you find that to be onerous, or is it pretty straightforward? What are your intervals, and how do you manage that?
We have maintenance comes under two categories, if you will. You've got unscheduled maintenance and you've got scheduled maintenance. So you've got parts that are life cycle parts. Part 91 is not bedeviled by that as your part 135 or 121 operators. With the unscheduled maintenance, that's hit or miss. If something goes bad, just plan for it. And so we'll normally expect during the year, we got to change tires. We've got coming in with a stuck valve somewhere. I tell our maintenance king, here's what the issue is. He does a super job of it. He's got good guys working for him. That's probably 10 to 15,000 a year. Then you've got your scheduled maintenance. And once a year, the plane has to go down. In a plane, a complex plane like this, you can do phase maintenance. Small single engine, that goes in once a year, and you do the same thing to it every year, and you might be looking at $3,000-5,000, plus the cost of anything that needs to be repaired. This plane, we do what's called phase maintenance, and the plane systems are broken up into categories so that every year you do a major look at one half of that and a minor look at the other, and then the next year you swap them. And the FAA blesses this, and it reduces the amount of time it goes down. That's why we get deep freeze. That's why airliners operate, so that they can minimize the downtime. But that's where your surprises come in. And that's why you've got to plan on, in our case, we've got to plan 20 to 30,000. Yeah, not fun.
Well, it's not much when you look at some of the other options that are out there, but it is definitely something to add into your budget for the year. Ron, will you tell me, just closing out, about the reliability that you've found with the King Air product?
Beechcraft is got a very good reputation. Everybody's making planes they overbuild to make them safe. I owned one airplane that was, I thought, kind of like owning an old Chevrolet. There was always something to be fixed. After I retired for good, I went and got an A&P license. So I could get in here and do that. And I don't work on this one. I let the guys who really know what they're doing on this one. So it's very reliable. Just to give you a direct answer, but it helps to have an idea what's going to break next, what can happen, and hopefully be ready for it. And you need to report early the things to your mechanic, saying, look, this appears to be going, I'm starting to get intermittent problems here, so that you can try to take care of them first. But it's not a headache. It's not a problem.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much wonderful information about the King Air B200 with me today. I appreciate you. I appreciate your service and the information that you've given me today. Thanks so much.